Hello, welcome to this episode of Gimme Shelter, Security in Azure. Today we're going to cover a couple of ways to keep track and manage your security within the Azure environment, and that's with the tools within native to Azure that are Azure Monitor and Log Analytics. I'm Dwayne Natwick. I am a cloud training content lead at Opsagility with over 30 years of IT experience. I'm also an Azure MVP and a Microsoft certified trainer regional lead for that program. And you can reach out to me on the social media links provided on this slide. So we're going to go through a few slides here to talk about Azure Monitor, how it is utilized for metrics and logs, how Log Analytics pulls into there, and what connected sources can be utilized within both Azure Monitor and Log Analytics, and then talk a little bit about log monitoring alerts and diagnostic logging that also takes place within the Azure environment for both Azure resources as well as some of your on-prem or services like virtual machines within other clouds. So a key thing around Azure Monitor is to understand the architecture of it all. Azure Monitor is kind of the key piece of the puzzle here that everything filters into from a standpoint of your applications and your operating systems and your Azure resources and certain custom resources in terms of a hybrid environment. And what Azure Monitor collects is metrics and logs, and we'll talk more about those specifically in a moment. But those metrics and logs can then be utilized and brought into other services within Azure to work with and to view what's going on within your environment. And those tools provide insights, they provide visualizations, they analyze the information in there, they provide you with a means to respond, and they integrate with some of the other services to send information and to trigger certain workflows within your environment. To take that a step further and to understand, you need to think about what Azure metrics and logs are and understand the difference between the two. Logs is pretty standard information that you get. You get that within any of your services within on-prem environments. You can turn logging on. Think of Exchange logs and what's going on within your Exchange environment. Logs is just information being gathered on what's going on in your environment and what's being triggered within services that are taking place. This could be error logs. This could be activity logs. This is just telemetry and data for performance, such as coming from Network Watcher and things of that nature. It's just information that's being gathered. And the thing about logs is that information is always being gathered, and that's always storing somewhere within the system and services. So when we start talking and thinking about our costs within Azure and controlling costs, you got to think about what we're logging and how much we're logging, how long we're keeping those logs, if we're moving those logs to cold or archive storage, if we need to keep those for auditing purposes later on. Keep that in mind as well as you start turning on and utilizing these services, that you're going to start accumulating more storage costs as you do this. Logs themselves move and utilize log analytics for querying and gathering information on those logs. And when we get into the demo, we'll show how that works a little bit more. Metrics, on the other hand, are actual values on what is taking place within your environment in real time. So what it's gathering is CPU performance, storage performance, and information that is real time and going across the timeline and taking place and showing you graphical details on where there might be spikes in your CPU utilization and things like that. So, that is, you're looking at, your databases, your database performance, your virtual machine operating system, what's coming in from Windows or Linux, in terms of what you can identify and where you can find potential issues that are taking place that needs you to resize a virtual machine, for instance, or adjust the DTUs on your database so that you get better performance out of those services. So that's where metrics come in as well. And here's where you can see kind of how the workflow takes place. You have your various data sources that are pulling in those metrics and logs. They're creating records, and they're going into a repository. Ultimately, this is your log analytics, repository, your storage account that's going to utilize and gather and grab information from log analytics to do those log searches, and then we can provide information in terms of dashboards, utilize Power BI, export that to CSV files. And really where it really helps you now is you can also create alerts on those searches and those queries based on the results and based on what performance levels or what is typical activity within your environment. So you can put those on activity logs to understand and look for anomalous activity. And in a couple videos from now, we're going to talk about Azure Sentinel, and Azure Sentinel really utilizes that information and reviews this information to pull in potential incidents into Sentinel in terms of how you're going to utilize your SOC and analyze and investigate types of incidences, and that's where these alerts take place. And there are many different connected sources then within your Azure environment as well as outside environment. Because Azure Monitor is native to the Azure environment, when you turn on a virtual machine within Azure, you can just turn on logging. When you create that virtual machine in the GUI, you can just click on boot diagnostics and other diagnostic and metric information when you create that virtual machine in the wizard, or you can turn on log analytics, enable log analytics on your virtual machines, your databases, all those services on the back end, utilizing PowerShell or utilizing again the Azure portal for that information. From a standpoint of other cloud environments or other on-premises environments, you can put agents out on those operating systems and gather information from a Windows machine utilizing the Windows native logging services within an operating system. Same thing with Linux. You don't get as much metrics out of a Linux machine as you do of a Windows machine, but you can still gather information for all of your virtual machines across the hybrid networks. And you can also use your System Center server as well for gathering that information on-prem and feeding that into the Azure environment. And as we talk about alerts, and we'll go into this a little bit more in the demo, alerts have essentially three main pieces. They have the resource that you're targeting, and then the condition that you're looking for, and then the action that you're going to take. And the action is generally a group that you create with what is going to happen within that group. And so you set up those main things. You set up severity and how that is then going to be filtered. And you can have multiple actions that take place with a single alert. You can set up different action groups, one being just an alert group, one being a workflow that gets triggered in terms of maybe in terms of a virtual machine, if you're setting up a action based on CPU utilization, or you could restart that virtual machine, you can resize that virtual machine, you can do different things from that standpoint as well. And then as we look at diagnostic logging and take that a step further, we have multiple things that you can see within here and what can happen with diagnostic logs. You can set this logging, and operationalize it from a standpoint of what you're going to do in terms of the logs and the metrics, what you're going to gather in those diagnostic settings, and then what are you going, where are you going to send them? You can see here there's multiple options here where, typically we're going to send those to log analytics. You may need to archive those to a storage account for auditing purposes later on, or if you are utilizing Event Hub for streaming analytics and sending it potentially to Power BI, you could utilize that as well. Typically, we're going to, as a default standard, is you're going to start probably with sending it to Log Analytics and utilizing the queries in Log Analytics to handle and to view your diagnostic logs and query those and find out what's going on with those logs. So let's take a look at a couple things here within the Azure environment. Okay, so we are in the Azure portal now. Actually go right into Azure Monitor by just selecting Monitor here, and we can see we've got a Get Started tab where we can explore metrics, create alerts. We can go into our insights, create insights, look at our different services within here, our activity logs. This is a helpful resource here. We can see here in the last 6 hours, and we can filter this in terms of the last month to get more information. And this is our full activity within Azure Monitor. So you can see what's happening within deployments that are taking place, sign-ins that are taking place, updates and links. So you can see just about anything that's going on in your environment by just going to Monitor and looking at the activity log. And this is turned on by default within your environment. You don't need to do anything within the setup to just get basic activity into Monitor. This is going in there regardless. And so you can go in and find out, hey, I've got a deployment that failed. Yesterday I went to stand up a SQL server and it was taking forever. So I canceled that deployment and redid it, redeployed it. And you can see that right here in my activity that I, created a deployment, I canceled that deployment, I succeeded in canceling my deployment. So you can really see what's going on within your environment as a global admin or a security admin. You can go and see what's happening within here, what's going on, what's going on in terms of your subscription. Keep in mind, certain people might only see certain things. Understand what your requirements are for viewing in Azure Monitor. Like I said, global admin will see anything. You may need to set up, a role for, a security reader to see certain security events and things like that if they're not a global admin. But you can see all this thing within here, and you can see this is all subscription level stuff. If I had things at a resource level, you might see that as well. You can see, where that event was initiated by, whether it was a security resource provider. So you can see this is, an updated link services. Here we got Azure Traffic Manager. So we've got different services here, services initiated by me. These are the deployments and things. So you can see where these are coming from. If you've got anything from, that you're looking at that doesn't fit what you expected to see, you can drill down deeper into those as well and see what these are. You then have the ability here to create an alert rule based on this. So you can go in here, and this actually puts your target scope right in. You've got conditions based on that alert. So this is a quick and easy way to create an alert. We're not going to do that this way, but it can show you, if you see a particular alert that's happening quite a bit, you can create an alert on it so that then you find out right away, and you can investigate, find out what that is, and take care of that alert from there. Now, we also have within here our virtual machines. So here we can go right into our virtual machines, and I have a couple of virtual machines that aren't monitored, and I can go right in here and I can enable my log analytics and monitoring right from here for my virtual machine. So this is going to deploy that. It's going to essentially turn on that agent on that virtual machine. The virtual machines within Azure Monitor, within Azure, come by default ready to connect to Azure Monitor. So it takes Doesn't take that long to deploy. If I had also on-prem virtual machines within my environment, I can see within Security Center and other tools that I've got that I can put agents on other virtual machines that are coming into that are connected to my environment as well. So if I was to also go then into this virtual machine, let me go into my virtual machines here. You can see I have 2 virtual machines. I'm going to go into this one, and you can go down into monitoring here. And very similarly, we have our insights here, our alerts. We can turn on insights and alerts. Here are my metrics. So you can see here, we can go to CPU consumed, and you can see we get a linear chart to understand what's going on and if there is a potential issue. You can see that I have a spike here, but that spike's only up to 0.8 credits of CPU. So this is credits of CPU because this is a B-level machine, so you can see what those are. If I want to see something in terms of percentage CPU, in terms of what's being utilized, here I can see I spiked up to 75, a little over 75%. So you might want to create an alert and create a new alert rule right here for this virtual machine, and it might be on an average, or we can remove this and add a new condition, and a typical condition might be on that CPU performance. So if I want to type in CPU and look at percentage CPU here, and if that threshold is greater than, if I say 75%, you can see it would have triggered right here, and it gives you a nice graph here to understand what may historically have been taking place within your CPU. So you can see that I've got certain times that I might have an issue with my CPU spiking. So I can look at that, and I can create an alert for that, and then I can click done. So I now have my CPU percentage. It tells you how much that is going to cost per alert. So when that condition gets hit and I get alerted, that's going to cost me 10 cents. This is fairly new. It didn't used to tell you how much an alert cost you, so you can manage your costs a little bit based on those alerts and how many alerts you have. And then we can add our action group. And I don't have any action groups right now, so I would have to create one. And I can say CPU alert group, what is going to happen, and I can notify based on role. I can notify and pull based an email based on who you want to have. If we utilize the manager role, it's actually going to pull up, and you can set it to the owner or whoever, owner of those groups. So anybody that's an owner would get alerted. So you have some flexibility there. You can also then, let me just real quick here, put my email in. You can do an SMS text, you can do a push notification, you can send a voice. So you have multiple ways for those alert rules. I'm going to set that there. And then we have our actions. So we have multiple different action types. We can trigger a run book. We can trigger a function if we have it. We can send something into a IT service management system such as ServiceNow. We can trigger a logic app, which is again another workflow, a web or a couple of different webhook types, a secure webhook or a regular webhook. Logic app is good because you can have a workflow that reboots that virtual machine if you want. Different things like that. The ITSM is very helpful if you're already utilizing something like ServiceNow. You can create a ticket, utilize that API that creates a ticket and then alerts through that system as well. I'm not going to go through and do all of this right now, so we're going to back out here. And once you create that group, and then you can create an actual, put the rule name and put in a description that goes into that email that gets notified or into the ServiceNow ticket and things like that. So that's how you create an alert rule. Last thing I wanted to show here is logs. So here is your logs for log analytics. When you click on logs, you can see it's got some standard out-of-box logs. So if you're new to the log query language, within here you can do a few of these right here. Like chart CPU usage trends. That brings up the language for that right there, and I can click run. It's not finding any results in here. Virtual machine available memory. Again, nothing happened in the last 24 hours. Let me see about the last 7 days, see if anything pops up here. Right now, I'm not getting any information in here, but you can run. You get a lot of capabilities within here as you work within the environment. And you can see different tables, and this is helpful as well in terms of the heartbeat of your environment. And again, I don't do a whole lot within these environments, so it's just my demo environment, so it's not bringing much up for this particular VM. But if it did, you'd get nice results here, linear results, and then also you can hit this chart button and see different charts that are available as well. So a lot of different things that you can do. You can do this for their log analytics. Again, is across the ecosystem, so you could go in and utilize log analytics against other services. If I go in, and I can go right into my log analytics workspaces, and to my default workspace, I can also do some things within here within my logs for different services. Still not getting anything within my services here. So haven't worked much in these over the course of the holidays and things like that. I wasn't doing much demos, so not seeing a whole lot of information right now, but this is really, you can go into log analytics, or you can go into the analytics pieces within your services themselves and see what's going on with your services. So that brings us to the end of this episode of Gimme Shelter, Security in Azure. Hopefully you gathered some information here today, and that can help you understand a little bit more around monitoring and analyzing information within your environment, which is important as you have your overall security posture. Typically, specifically around the activity that's happening within your environment. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind how you can look at the activity within your environment and understand and alert on potential anomalous activity. And as like I said, we go into Azure Sentinel in a couple videos from now, we'll show how that logging activity is utilized within Azure Sentinel to find information and to detail and provide potential incidents or alerts based on things that are outside the ordinary. So thank you very much for joining in today, and feel free to follow me on social media. And until next time, have a great day.